Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. I want to talk a bit about Ben Whittaker, because Ben Whittaker is conspicuous by his absence on social media, interviews and so on, ever since the Liam Cameron technical draw where him and Cameron went over the top rope, and Whittaker was, I don't know whether he deemed himself unfit to fight on or whether his corner did, but he didn't fight on, and it was a technical draw. And from this emerges Liam Cameron with a contract with Queensberry. But Ben Whittaker, there's no doubt that his stock really dropped. And to be honest with you, the fact that he's now so quiet, having been so sort of bombastic on social media and on the internet prior to that, it's not a good look. Now, that's not to say it's a bad thing necessarily, because you could make the argument that Whittaker kind of dug his own grave, that he was so boorish that, you know, when he hit a bump in the road, and that's really all the Liam Cameron fight was, that people were delighted, and he kind of set himself up to fail. You know, Cameron was a very sort of unfancied opponent. He'd lost to Lyndon Arthur prior to the Whittaker fight. Whittaker, Olympic silver medalist, was meant to deal with him, and he didn't. Now, if you look at Whittaker's sort of arc, if that's what you want to call it, you know, he was, like I say, he was an Olympic silver medalist. He caused a bit of controversy there because he didn't want to wear his silver medal. He turned up without it, or something. I can't remember the exact details, but he felt that a silver medal was a failure. I didn't get the gold. And some people took umbrage with this. They said it was disrespectful towards the opponents, towards the Olympics itself, that it was actually an honour to wear a silver medal. And Whittaker ended up apologising. He did talk about possibly staying amateur and going and getting the gold, but then he turned professional with Ben Shalom and Sky Sports. And it's rumoured, I don't know the exact details of the contract or anything, I'm not privy to that, obviously, but they paid well for him. Whittaker did all right out of the contract. Now, his progress as a professional has been slow, and some of it's not his fault because he's had like a shoulder injury. I think there've been another couple of injuries. But if you constantly do all that, you know, rather stupid showboating, which some people like and I hate, against low-level journeymen who are just there to earn a paycheck and take you a few rounds, and you're showing off and you're doing all this crap, it can come across as being very crass, very, very inappropriate when you're doing it against low-level guys. If you're doing it in a world title fight, I mean, if Whittaker was in there with Beterbiev or Bivol doing that, well, and getting away with it and not getting clocked and winning rounds, then you would say, okay, this guy's great. But when you do it in a 4-rounder or a 6-rounder against a journeyman who you're meant to win every round against, it just comes across as being pointless to me. It comes across as like immaturity, stupidity. So, like I say, some people love all that stuff, but I don't. I'm old school, as the phrase seems to be. Whenever you get someone who's slightly, you know, over 30 and likes, you know, has a sort of rather more traditional view, they're old school. Well, that's fine. Call me that or call me whatever you like. I really don't mind. There's no doubt that when Whittaker, I'm almost tempted to say, came a cropper against Cameron, although let's not forget he didn't lose that fight, people were delighted for that reason. They were like, he's, you know, finally he's got his comeuppance. He's acted like a damn fool, and now he's getting his comeuppance. And I understand that. Now, I did say a moment ago, a couple of minutes ago, that I think that if that sort of thing happens, going away from the limelight can be a good thing. It depends what you're doing behind the scenes. Because that sort of incident, something like that, when people turn against you and they start ridiculing you, you've got a choice. You can either shrivel up and die and allow your deflated ego to rule you, or you can say, okay, you keep talking. I'm going to go away and I'm going to work hard and I'm going to come back stronger than ever, away from the limelight. I'm going to dedicate myself to my sport or to whatever the craft that you're doing is, and you keep talking, I'll show you what I'm really made of. Again, if you're the age that I am, you will remember the build-up to the first Holyfield-Mike Tyson fight, where people were, some very respected journalists were saying Tyson will smash Holyfield up in 2 or 3 rounds. Some people were saying Holyfield shouldn't even be in that fight. That he's, he previously had a heart condition, which he says was cured by a faith healer, which of course means it wasn't cured at all. Faith healers, for fuck's sake, it was the 21st century, or 20th century back then. But yeah, and he went out there, he just did his thing, did quietly behind the scenes. And I remember him being, during the final press conference, he stood up and he looked over at Tyson. He said, "You better understand, there's no fear in me. There's no fear in me." And I always remember that little moment, because he came across as being extremely sincere. And we know what happened in that fight. But Holyfield, despite everybody saying he shouldn't be anywhere near the ring, they were like, "Oh, he was like, okay, I'll go away, I'll do my thing, and you'll see on the night." Now, of course, Ben Whittaker versus Liam Cameron is leagues below that type of event. But it's the attitude I'm talking about. That if Ben went away and he just said, okay, if he learnt from having his ego deflated, if he learnt that, sometimes all the flash and dash and the sheen and shine isn't enough, I'm going to have to rededicate myself, because all the wheels are going to come off this little bandwagon. If he went away and he dedicated himself and he got himself, a steady trainer and was in camp, getting himself physically fit, preparing mentally, staying, living the life, then this time out of the spotlight will have been time well spent. Because I think we tend to think that if someone does walk away, from social media and does suddenly go quiet, that it's a bad thing somehow. This is the mindset of a lot of people, because, the internet is such a huge part of their lives. It can be quite the contrary. Compare the Conor Ben situation with the Dillian Whyte situation regarding PEDs. Conor and his team made absolute fools of themselves with all their, this endless parade of piss and wind, and when really he should have stayed quiet and allowed, the legal team to do their thing and not gone on. I mean, who the fuck would ever want to go on Piers Morgan's show anyway? Man's an imbecile. Horrendous little tabloid slag. Why would you ever want to go on a show like that? Oh, because it's high profile. High profile can be a bad thing as well as a good thing. Contrary to the old saying, not all publicity is good publicity. Whereas you compare that to what Dillian Whyte has done. He's fought a couple of times since failing the PED test for the Joshua fight, the proposed Joshua rematch. He's gone away. He's had, a silly little fight in Ireland in Castlebar. Then he had the Monte Carlo fight against Tete, which was surprisingly entertaining. And you can argue that Dillian looks ragged and doesn't look world class anymore. Okay, Dillian's always going to be a handful because he's a tough guy. But his punch resistance, to me, looks very, very suspect now, and has done for a few years, actually. But the point is, he's gone away, and he's just gone about his business quietly. And if Ben Whittaker has done that, and he hasn't just sat on the sofa eating, Ben and Jerry's ice cream and watching Netflix and whatever, or, then it might be a good thing. Now, as far as the Liam Cameron fight is concerned, if I was Ben Whittaker, I would be saying to my promoter, Ben Shalom, I want that fight. I want that rematch. I don't even care whether I'm paid for it. I want that fight. Get me in the ring in a rematch. Because Ben Shalom has been saying that, Queensberry are playing games, and Frank Warren can be a nasty piece of work if you cross him. He's quite a spiteful character. He does bear grudges. And after the friction between him and Ben Shalom, I mean, I can quite believe that he signed Liam Cameron simply to sort of cross swords with Ben Shalom and Boxer, and to make Whittaker look even smaller, or that's the public perception, than he already does following the first fight. If I was Whittaker, I would say, if Ben Shalom isn't getting that fight done, if I was Whittaker, I would go straight to Warren and say, right, what do you need? Just tell me what you need, right? Because I want to fight this guy again. I want to fight your man again. Because Oscar de la Hoya was interviewed this is just one example. He was interviewed a while back, just before Christmas actually, and he said, if fighters want the fights, if they both really want the fights get made, because they say to their promoters or managers, make this fight. If I was Whitaker, again, behind the scenes, not necessarily in front of cameras, I would be saying, get me that fight. I insist on it. I don't even care if I get paid. You know, I just want revenge on this guy. And I want to right the wrong, and then I can move on. Whitaker is supposed to be out in April, I think, after an injury. Will it be against Liam Cameron? I doubt it. Shalom is saying, I think it will get made eventually. But I think Uncle Frank, he's got it in for Ben Shalom. And I think that Ben Whittaker is going to be collateral damage in this scenario. But yeah, what's Whittaker been up to? Very, very quiet. Has he learnt his lesson? Has he toned down all the showboating, all the out of the ring nonsense, all the guff, in favour of getting back to being a boxer, to honing your craft, to maximising your talent? If you're a boxer, you've got to do that. What is the old saying? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, or something like that. And the guy's in his 20s now. He's not a young man. He's not, young. He's not old, but he's not ultra young. He's got to live the life. He's got to train properly. He's got, otherwise all that talent that he's got is going to go to waste. It's going to go to waste. And he's going to be one of those what if fighters, But let me know what you think. Give me your opinions. What do you think of Ben Whittaker? Anthony Joshua used to say, stay hungry, stay humble, or something like that. And everyone used to say, what are you talking about, humble? You're not humble, and blah, blah, blah. I think they missed the point. There was a great deal to be said for being humble, because if you recognise that, you do have flaws and you can work on them, if you recognise that that there is something to be said for not talking a lot, being very modest, you don't get any pressure on you, you can walk away and, go about your business and come back and achieve great things. There's no need for, empty vessels make the most noise, as they say. And the other saying that goes hand in hand with that one is that still waters run deep. Let me know what you think about Ben Whittaker. Which category do you think he falls into? And please, if you're new to the channel, subscribe, hit the like button, do all that good stuff. I always appreciate your time. Looking forward to reading your comments. In the meantime, welcome to the weekend. Bye for now.